Hello and welcome to another edition of SportsTalk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. I'm your host, Josh Abrams. And today we're going to talk about the Eagles and their big win over the New York Giants. We're going to come back and talk about the Sixers as we get their season underway. And then we're going to talk about our rants for the week. And trust me, we got some good ones for you. Stay tuned.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
And welcome back from the intro, and as usual, I have a great panel on hand with me today to talk some Eagles. Jake Copestick, Dave Roberts, and Jack Rohr joined me today. And guys, there's no better way to start off Week 6 of the NFL other than a 34-13 victory over a division rival, not the best division rival, obviously, but nevertheless, it was a very promising win, the best game by far all season, the most convincing win. Let's get everyone's general opinions and leave the floor open to you guys. So, how are you guys feeling?
Well, going back to last week, you already brought it up. There was finally a convincing win from them. In all phases of the game, they pressured Eli, not a whole lot. I mean, Barkley had a great game on the ground, but I mean, outside of that, they really won in every phase of the game. So it was finally a nice, convincing win to see from the Birds.
I don't want to get too ahead of myself because the Giants are trash. I don't want to say the Eagles are bad, but they're headed in the right direction. Because I lost my train of thought, Dave. Go.
I'm going to bounce off that. The Giants are trash, but I also think the Eagles needed this win to get that mojo back and actually play like they're supposed to. And like remember, like, all right, this is the team this is basically the same team we had last year. And we can basically do the same thing that we did last year. I think it's just all about mindset now. So I think it's a good springboard on to like the rest of the season and just going and getting after it.
Found my train of thought. The Giants were the team that Nick Foles played the first game after he came in after the Rams, right? And they made him look great. Threw 4 touchdown passes, won the game. Next 2 weeks, he looked awful until he got back on track. So that's the team that we're up against. It was a convincing win, and I'm happy. But like, not a high bar to pass.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Jack, because the schedule is nowhere near easy from here on out. I mean, obviously we know that Carolina's coming in this weekend, and we know that them and the Saints are basically contending for the NFC South. And then a week later, we're going to have to go fly all the way out to London and play Jacksonville. And then from there, we got the Cowboys at home. And I don't remember the order necessarily, but we got teams like the Saints, the Rams, even the Texans, whose O-line isn't that great, but they still have dynamic players. And, talking about dynamic players, we let Saquon run all over us. But I think it was more of a benefit than anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, Saquon's going to get his yards. I think he's going to be one of the all-time greats when it's all said and done. But when you shut down Eli in the passing game and you win on defense, you only give up 13 points, who cares if he had 200 yards?
Yeah, that's basically how I felt watching the game. It was kind of like why is Saquon getting all these yards on us, but at the same time, I was like, we're still up by at least 2 touchdowns. So, like, it hurts to watch because you're like, all right, our defense can stop a running back at any point, and what type of pressure that Saquon's on to be really good for his rookie year. But, I think we're going to watch tape, we're going to watch film, and then we're going to go back this week against Carolina and just, play the game that we know how to play.
And before you go, Jack, I just wanted to say, you guys bring up a great point about letting Saquon get all these yards. I'm thinking of it from the perspective of it's a passing league now. And you only win through the air and by an aerial attack that's able to score quickly. Obviously, Saquon was able to break off some big runs, including I think it was the near 60-yarder that he had on us. But that's not going to happen every time, especially against the Eagles defense. So I think letting him get all those yards was a benefit because we also shut down Odell.
Yeah. I mean, I think we covered that well enough. The best thing for me about Saquon was during the broadcast, I remember they said something about how the Giants have never had a player with 100 rushing yards and 100 receiving yards in the same game. They held him 1 receiving yard short. He didn't do it against the Eagles. That shows how good our defense is.
I'm glad you're looking at it that way. So let's talk about the positives from this game. Obviously, we were clicking on all cylinders. Carson looked really good. Alshon made his presence known. Even the special teams, and I don't think I give them enough credit, because the special teams is a very underrated, not very talked about portion of football. And looking at the lineup there, I've loved DeAndre Carter, and I think Cameron Johnston has done a great job filling in for Donnie Jones from last year, and even Jake Elliott, we know his kicking issues. He's still very solid, and a lot of people love him, especially for the big field goals he's hit.
I've always liked DeAndre Carter since preseason. He was the guy that I went to one of the open practices. I was just like, this guy looks like he really wants to play. Like, he's really fighting for a spot to be on this team. And when we had released him for maybe a game or two, but then he came back, and I was like, I think this guy can actually because we were lone receivers, I think this guy could actually make a difference on the team. And you saw it in the game with that punt return. And it was it was something nice to see. And I hope that because I know we were struggling there, I hope that they actually keep him out there and just keep giving those reps, so later on he can actually make more of an impact down the line.
I want to give some praise to Cameron Johnston. Punters are people too, and when he can put all those balls inside the 20 against a bad O-line and overall a pretty unsteady offense for the Giants, and the Birds can operate and blitz a lot when the Giants are backed up to the end zone, it helps out. And it's going on the whole year. He's been able to pin people inside the 20, and it's about time we show Cameron Johnston some love.
Jake Elliott finally got me decent fantasy points this weekend. He's been letting me down all year, picked up the pace, 9 points. I won my game. It was great. It does concern me that his 3 misses are 50-plus yards. You said something about all the big kicks he's hit. He hasn't really hit those this year. It's kind of scary what happens when, week 4 against the Giants last year comes up. 61 yards. I don't really trust him that much anymore with that kind of kick.
Yeah, absolutely. It almost seemed like a one-hit wonder with that. But nevertheless, we know what these guys are capable of. But let's look at Carson Wentz, guys. I would not have believed, coming off of an ACL injury, something so severe, one of the worst injuries that you could possibly endure as an athlete. And he is on pace to put up better numbers, I think, already, than he did last year, and he missed 2 games already. So, looking ahead when you take into consideration everything that we've talked about since day one, Carson Wentz, guys, is this guy ready to take over the NFL?
Yes. It's just the thing, everyone is distracted because some people like Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff stepping up and all these great other quarterbacks that have really taken a step. Everyone's forgetting about Carson Wentz because we talked about him so much last year. He was going to be the MVP if he didn't get injured. There's just a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I feel like because of Mahomes, because of Goff, since we're having really good years, the Rams being undefeated, the Chiefs losing a game against the Patriots, I mean, they look really good this year, and the only reason they're not talking about us is because we're not in those positions that they're in. We're a 3-3 team, but we have games where we should be 6-0 or we should be 5-1. So I feel like in the next couple of weeks, when we actually, since I feel like we're on the right track to win a couple more games and actually have a good record, I feel like once that talk comes back up, I feel like we're going to start talking about Carson Wentz again and how electrifying he is on the field.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. He's only got 1 interception on the year, and that's pretty typical of Carson Wentz to me. Every time I see him, I'm confident he's not going to turn it over. And he's coming off that injury, too, which is even crazier to see that he's only got the 1 interception.
How about that throw he made? I think it was the first touchdown of the game to Alshon. How many other quarterbacks can you think of that would make that throw?
And it's that connection, because he's done that before with Alshon in the end zone, where he just he throws it to where he knows he can get it, and Alshon has been a great enough wide receiver to just go out and catch it and just make sure he and to show everyone I got the ball, this is a touchdown. So I expect more of that later down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the future, the teams that we're going to play, I mentioned earlier that we have a really tough schedule, but we still have a lot of divisional games left, and I think that's really where the strength of schedule gets brought down a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, their division's kind of weak. There's a lot of, the Cowboys and the Redskins are breaking even at this point, basically. I mean, I fully expect the Birds to go 4-0 against them and wipe out the division competition. But when they get to play the Panthers and the Rams and the Jags, when they got to go across the pond to London, it's kind of up in the air because those are the teams they need to win against if they want to really solidify themselves among the top teams in the NFL.
Yeah, those are like Jake said, those are really like games we have to win to one, just to get where we need to be on the positive side of just making the playoffs, and two, just showing that we are an impact in the NFC in itself. So I feel like the division games, like we should always be worried about them. Cowboys are always a good competitor, and the Redskins, for some reason, they look kind of good. So
It's a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah, so I feel like we should focus on those games for sure. But I feel like the other NFC games that are coming up, we should really those are the ones we need to win.
All right, let's move on to the scouting report for this week. The Panthers are no slouch. We've known that. If you guys remember the game last year, it was close from start to finish, and it took a good amount of Cam Newton interceptions for us to actually put it away. But one of the players that we're looking at here is the running back out of Stanford, I believe, Christian McCaffrey. He is just a dynamic player on both facets on offense. What are you guys thinking in terms of having to adjust to a running back like Christian McCaffrey?
We just played Saquon, right? Let him do the same thing. It worked against the Giants. Why won't it work against the Panthers? I'm just kidding. They're a better team. But as we said, giving up those rushing yards isn't as bad as long as they don't get down into the red zone and further on down the field. But you give up a 20-yard rush if they're on like the 25 down to the 40. Who cares?
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing I'm scared of is that McCaffrey is one of Cam Newton's favorite targets, and the running game is crucial for them. But I know that a lot of swing routes and a lot of little inside routes that McCaffrey runs, he's quick. So as soon as he gets there, he's gonna make the first cut he can just to get the first down or even get inside the red zone. So it is important that we have someone that watches him at all times and just make sure that he doesn't get sneaky around us and gets 100 yards on us like Saquon did.
Yeah, I agree with Dave. He's just as big a threat as he is catching the ball, as he is in the backfield. He's top 15 in the NFL in rushing, averages almost 5 yards a carry. So not only do they have to watch out for him running, but they line him up at receiver. They won't even line him up in the slot. They'll line him up outside the numbers because he's that good of a receiver. So as long as they can stick a guy on him that can stick with him, I think they should be fine.
Real quick before we move on to our picks, the defensive player that we must always look out for is the great Luke Kuechly. A lot of respect to him. He's been one of the best linebackers in the league. And I'll leave that up to any of you.
Yeah, all-pro linebacker. Obviously, he reads an offense like it's a book. So obviously, we're just going to have to watch out for him regardless of whatever happens on Sunday.
Yeah, he's always scary.
You got to respect him. We haven't really played a ton of players like that this season, so I want to see how the Eagles' defense this year at least lines up against that. The offense, my bad.
Yeah, he flies all over the field, and he can cover a whole bunch of different positions, but he's everywhere. You always got to know where he's lining up on defense because he can get downhill in a hurry.
Absolutely. So let's move on to our picks. I'm feeling confident this week. I have the Birds winning by a score 31-24. This is the game where Fletcher Cox needs to just break through those double teams and sack Cam Newton. I don't want it to happen for fantasy purposes, but the Eagles are much more important. So, Jake, your pick.
I have the Birds winning 24-21, and Derek Barnett is my MVP. The Panthers O-line, little makeshift because there was a bunch of injuries and guys leaving in free agency. So it's kind of an O-line that was kind of thrown together at the beginning of the year. So I think that Derek Barnett and the whole D-line should be able to have a real good game against them.
Dave, your pick.
Mine was 27-23. My MVP was everyone but the refs. Last year, I remember watching this game with my friend who is a Panthers fan. Last year, there were so many calls on us that we had about 100.
The ratio was unbearable.
They had at least one call that was 5 yards, and we had 50 calls that were 1,000. I'm exaggerating, but it felt like we weren't going to win because of the refs. So I feel like if we do everything we can, we're going to win. But if the refs decide to meddle in that, that's when we actually start to break down.
Jack, real quick, talk about your pick.
28-23 Eagles. I got it going the exact same way as last year. That was the same score as last year. Zach Ertz caught 2 touchdowns. He's my MVP.
Hey, you know what? I don't think we'll be upset if it happens the same way.
Exactly.
But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the boys that are coming, the 76ers. Stay tuned. Tell me you didn't watch the Phillies game last night.
You know, unfortunately I did, and it was just so heartbreaking to see the first 8 batters strike out.
Claude Giroux hasn't done anything for this organization.
I'm confused. You're doing an internship in sort of marketing and production, right?
I really can't believe that Ben Simmons won't be dropping threes on the court this year.
Hey, Tanya, I know you're really busy, but could you tell me who the Sixers play on October 28th? Doctor, in order for the Eagles to win this week, they're going to need 250 passing yards from Carson Wentz. We're going to need 100 yards rushing. I don't care who it is. We're going to need a lot of good production from our tight end and wide receivers. And I'm going to need 5 interceptions from Malcolm Jenkins. Yeah, Mom, look, I know the money situation isn't good right now, but I promise you Travis Konechny's going to have a breakout year.
Hey, I had to climb to the top of Mount Everest to find Nick Pavetta's ERA.
Sports Talk Philadelphia. We talk nothing but sports all the time.
Welcome back from the commercial break. All right, guys, it's time to talk some Sixers, and what a horrible way to start the season to the one team in the Eastern Conference that actually has our number. Our rival, I say it that way, we'll talk about that later. But by point of fact, our division rival, the Celtics, they just manhandled us in the end. It was a close game throughout, as you saw. We were only down 5 at halftime, and then we only went down about 10 or 11 or so at the end of the third quarter, a deficit that is much able to be coming back from. But in the end, Boston just proved to be too much. And, you know, when you look at the way that we performed on any facet, you know, what stands out to you guys the most about only putting up 87 points?
Well,
I don't put too much value into the first game of the season. They're basically still in preseason mode. I think it was really, really encouraging to see like Joel Embiid play as well as he did, Ben Simmons play as well as he did, and put up those stat lines, as opposed to like, I mean, I know it ended up getting out of hand, 18 points, but like, I'm okay with that for game one. There's 81 to go. They'll 81-1. It'll happen.
All right, whoever wants to jump in next.
Ben Simmons and Embiid, they need more help. They need so much more help. Simmons had to play 43 minutes. No one really came off the bench besides Redick and did much. I mean, T.J. McConnell, I think, only had 4 points in 22 minutes. So I think that, you know, Simmons and Embiid, I got what I expected from them. But the other guys have to produce more, especially the bench.
Yeah, going off Jake's point, it's kind of like that Eagles mentality we had last year, next man up, and that's pretty much what, I mean, one game, we can't say a lot, but like, based off one game, if that's going to happen the rest of the 81 games, then we're going to need someone else to step up and put up the same amount of points that Ben and Joel Embiid are. I was expecting Dario to put up a solid amount of points, but like, he really wasn't anywhere in the second half, so I expect more. That's all.
No, I think we're all on the same page here. Is that, you know, there's not a lot we can do in terms of giving these guys help right now, but we got to make things work with the team that we have. And even though our bench is a little bit depleted more than last year, we're basically bringing back the same core guys that we had a year ago. So the chemistry should be there. But, you know, no matter how deep, no matter how good of a team Boston is, you're not going to win it. You're not going to win an NBA game turning the ball over 16 times, shooting 40% from the field, and then to add insult to injury, it's like 19% from beyond the arc. Yeah. This is a team that needs to be able to shoot the ball in order to succeed. And, you know, against a Boston team as good as that, it's just not going to happen.
Our shooters that we expect to shoot, J.J. Redick and Robert Covington, Robert Covington went 2 for 7 from 3, and J.J. went for 2 for 8. And it's kind of like we expect them to make half of those. And that's usually what I expect. I expect you to make half of them. If you're having a really good game, like you missed 2, but like, we can't have guys like the guys we expect to make those threes, like miss shots against a team like the Celtics. So later, like I said, first game, but later down the line, I'm gonna need those 2 guys as of right now, our 3-point shooters, to step it up.
Another stat I want to point out is that the Sixers got out rebounded 55-47, and there was a bunch of opportunities they had to get a defensive rebound, but Aaron Baines from Boston came down with it, kicked it out, and they got another possession out of it. So I mean, it's just stuff like that they have the bodies, they have the big men inside to get rebounds, but they got to execute.
No. Jack doesn't. Jack, we need to move away from the Boston topic. But I mean, no. Everyone here knows that we need better play after game one. I mean, I specifically want to point out Joel Embiid and Markelle Fultz. Now, Embiid put up his usual stat line of about 23, 10, a couple blocks here and there, but he turned the ball over 5 times, guys. I mean, we're expecting 5 turnovers out of Ben Simmons, out of someone whose ball is in his hands most of the time. Now, not saying that the ball's not in Joel Embiid's hands, but 5 turnovers from a center is always unpleasant because now, technically, if we're going to use this one game as a sample size, Joel Embiid averages more turnovers than Ben Simmons.
I think off of that, too, it just shows you how much he does have the ball, and 2, how much we are heavily relying on him to, even just do something on offense. And that's where I think that comes in, all right, we need another person to do something. We expect Ben Simmons to turn the ball over because he's the point guard. We expect turnovers from our guards in general because, other guards are going to swat the ball out their hands or something. But for Joel Embiid to even have that many turnovers and have, to be at the top of the key and take those type of shots too, it's we don't need that. We need him to eat up the paint like he usually does. If he has a turnaround jumper, I'll take that, and just keep contributing on offense.
I'm going to bring up the question now while we have the time. Is this still a rivalry? There's a lot of talk in the news and the media about people like Joel Embiid saying that it's not a rivalry. We get our butts whooped all the time. Jaylen Brown says it's not. It's a rivalry between the fans, but when it comes to the players, it's just another team. And then you have our new GM Elton Brand saying that you can hang back and you can reminisce about Dr. J, Moses, or even when we were in middle school, high school, when Elton Brand, Drew Holiday, and that Sixers squad was giving the Celtics fits. And we can't give them fits now.
Yeah, it's not really a rivalry to me. I get that it's the 2 teams' history, but, I mean, Joel Embiid said it the best. If they keep beating us, is it really a rivalry?
Right.
I think it's a rivalry. I think rivalries, as soon as they start, they don't go away. I think they go to sleep, go dormant. They just stop for a short amount of time. I feel like this, it's not going to be a renewal. I feel like the rivalry that's always been there, it's going to stay there. So, my dad, big Sixers fan, he hates Boston. He's going to hate Boston for the rest of his life. And I feel like that's how we're going to be. When we get older, we're going to hate Boston regardless of who we have on our team. So, it's definitely a rivalry. It's just, they're just beating us right now. We just have to figure out a way for us to say something back to the other team.
It's still a rivalry. I mean, they may keep losing, but it's still a rivalry. It's similar to Giants-Eagles. We keep beating the Giants, but that's still a big rivalry. We hate them, they hate us. We hate the Celtics hate us. It's just kind of how it goes. Eventually, we'll start winning. Hopefully this season.
Yeah, that would honestly be great. And I agree with you guys. It's not quite a rivalry yet. I think I'm more with Joel Embiid on this one, where they just got to start beating them in order to really make it a competitive rivalry. So we're going to move on to our rants. And I'm going to start off by talking about kind of what we were just talking about, the Sixers and Celtics. But I'm focusing more on the schedule side of things. I'm not very happy with the fact that the Sixers had to open up their season and on Christmas Day travel to the Boston Celtics. I understand that we're going to play the Celtics a lot this year. They're a divisional rival. It's bound to happen. But do the first 2 games against them this season really have to be, and not just the first 2 games, but the first 2 major primetime games against Boston? It's almost as if the NBA wants national NBA, every NBA fan to watch the Sixers get crushed. It's just very, very disheartening to see that kind of disrespect. And I'm going to move it over to Jake.
I'm just going to say one word, and that's ratings, because the NBA could probably get some real good ratings off that. Now, will the Sixers win? That's up in the air if they got to travel to Boston for 2 primetime games. But, I mean, I will for sure be tuning in.
Right.
Because it's going to be a good game.
But your rant?
Yeah, mine is Markelle Fultz getting playing time. I'm a Duke guy. I support Jason Tatum. But it kills me as a Sixers fan to watch Jason Tatum pick apart the Sixers. Yeah. And when I see Tatum playing well and I see Fultz barely getting any time and not really producing in his time, I just need more out of him. If the Sixers are going to start Markelle Fultz, commit to him. Play him 35, 40 minutes a game because you're going to have to play him in these playoff series with the Celtics.
I like that, and I think I couldn't agree more. Dave, your rant.
My rant kind of goes into that third player that we've been talking about. So yeah, we've been star hunting, and these are the three guys we talked about last year. I remember being on this desk talking about these are the three guys that we're going to be looking at. And LeBron went to the Lakers, Paul George stayed in OKC, and Kawhi Leonard went to the Raptors. So the guys that we really wanted, they're not here. And even the guy that we got in free agents, Wilson Chandler, he's not a star. He's just another good player. And the guy I wanted, Jamal Crawford, just to help out these guards and all these young guys, he's on the Suns now. So I feel like if we really wanted to star hunt, if we really wanted to get a player, then we should have done it now. But it's kind of over. So I feel like now we just need draft picks. We need better hunting, and just win games so people want to come here. That's all we need. Those three things.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how long that takes. Last but not least, we saved. It's not saving the best for last. It's saving the most interesting for last. I'm going to send it over to Jack. Take it away.
Ryan McDonough is finally fired from the Phoenix Suns. Took over in their last above 500 season, and it's been trash since then. He's blown basically every draft pick, and it's been really, really obnoxious. The only guy who's hit is Booker, and it's hard to miss on the #1 pick. Ayton, I don't know yet, but hopefully. Every summer, free agents, there's always a guy. Kyrie Irving, we got a meeting with Blake Griffin, we get a meeting with LeBron. Nobody ever comes. We talked about star hunting, the Suns are doing that forever. Oh my God, it's obnoxious. There's always rumors, and they never happen. I've needed to get this off my chest for a while, and I'm glad it's finally happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of years of buildup you just gave away right there.
And now they're 1-0. The future.
Oh yeah,
is
they're already
here.
better than the Sixers now. That's great. Oh yeah. Well, Jack, thank you. That's the best. That's the best ab workout I'm going to get all year. We're going to wrap it up now, guys. We thank you so much for tuning in and watching. This is probably my favorite episode ever. I love being able to get things off my chest. You guys can catch us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, lasalle.edu/LaSalleTV. It's all right there. We hope you guys enjoyed the show today, as I did. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And go Birds. Let's go for 4-3. Have a great weekend, everyone.